So welcome everyone to Fireside Chats, where the mystical meets the practical. And I'm Juna, and this is Sabina, and we're from Synergy in Motion. And our monthly Fireside Chats are our gift to you. And one of the things we have a YouTube channel, so you can always give us a thumbs up and say that you like us on the YouTube, and or subscribe to our YouTube channel to pick our entire library. Hi, Malia. And yes, our entire library is also on our website, synergyinmotion.info. So you can just go there. We also are on Spotify, Google Play, and SoundCloud.
iTunes as well.
And iTunes. So that's a little blurb. And our theme for the day is living in a changing world. So we're going through lots of change.
I mean, we were very inspired with what is going on currently and just wanted to address that. And as change is such a crucial part of life, that's the only thing that never changes, that everything changes. And also it is such a vital element of magic to allow change, to be with change, to learn to be with change gracefully. We thought, hey, what better time to have a fireside chat with that theme.
And our cat is just majestically walking down the hallway here to us. You know, and you need a cat for some magic in the mix.
Exactly. So change and living in the liminal and living a magical life. So magic in my world is very much about flowing with the movements. Movement is change, right? So being with the movements of life in a way that brings forth more of what I desire and what I'm going for and what I want to see more in life. And for me, that is absolutely life energy, different expressions of life and diversity. And when I'm seeing right now what's happening in the world, we're really in a huge evolutionary shift where old energies are holding on so tight and try to avoid any kind of change. And what it is created is a huge friction. And every once in a while it goes, right?
Yeah.
And whether those explosions are fabricated or not, it's really irrelevant. It's happening. That's it's not irrelevant, but in the bigger picture, it is actually irrelevant. It is part of the change, and every player adds to their role and plays the part in evolution itself.
Donald Trump plays a part.
And like all the different players play their important part. And I find it very important to see the detail and see the bigger picture. And what we hear today is really to look at the bigger picture of what's going on in our lives, and how can we be differently in the world, and how can we be a contribution that actually creates more of what we desire, whatever that is for you. Okay?
And one of the things is like just really looking at the whole notion of change. I remember having a chat with a lady, a cashier in the grocery store, and I said, "Yeah, we're all about change. This is what we do in Synergy in Motion." And she says, "Oh, change scares me." Yeah. So I can perceive that is frightening for some people, and even for me recently, this is our crazy cat. Even for me recently is I could really perceive in my body when I was in fear about something. I was in fear and excitement about making a big purchase. We just are in the process of getting a new truck to pull our Airstream. And yet like all this fear came up about, are we going to get the right one? Is it going to have the right stuff? And all of this. And I could just feel how fear froze my body. And I was, as we were, Sabine and I talk about this a lot, is like, if you're in fear at all about anything, can you change anything? So it's like you become a stiff board and what can change. There's nothing fluid, nothing movable about this a stiff board that's in this space of fear. So just like opening up this, like all of the different possibilities of change, and acknowledging that it might bring up fear in one area of your life, but then change is really exciting in another. Maybe you're a daredevil and you would thrive on change, and yet with finances you might be terrified and you go into that frozen feeling. So we're complicated creatures, and we have fear about some things and not about others, and we can explore change and say, yeah, I'm gonna go for it, man. I'm into change. And yet others is, no, I'm protecting my assets. And that's kind of what we see all around is, like you'll see pictures. I just saw a picture of Whole Foods on the shelves are bare, in Toronto, of everybody's stocking up on things. So this protecting the assets, and is that limiting change, or is that actually empowering change in the world? Mm-hmm. So just looking at fear, and then the extreme of like being a daredevil and going for it, or being the extreme of closing down on it. So like either extreme is that where we need to be?
Mm-hmm. And it's not about avoiding extremes as such, but being present with yourself. And that's what we here are all about. Know your rhythm, know your song, know your, what I call your energy signature, your personal individual fingerprint, right? Your melody. Because that is like when you're dancing, right? And you're dancing your heartbeat with your feet. Your body can go into extremes, but you still have that pulse, that heartbeat that keeps you present with yourself. And what I see currently happening a lot is people are losing that sense of self, or never had it, because where do you learn it?
Yeah.
But faced with these extremes of the market going volatile and wanting to change, but not being allowed to change, mm-hmm. health situation being totally manipulated and controlled, they're all extremes that need to change, and they need to tip into the next evolutionary phase. But the old energies are holding on to it. It's like, the Feds lowered the interest rates just because they're so afraid of what happens. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing that can stop evolution. That is for sure. And when you perceive that energy, it wants to tip into something new, but it's not quite allowed. And when we as individuals really look in our personal life, okay, where are we doing this? And where are we forgetting our own beat in our feet, right? And the sense for who we are in the big scarcity and fear-mongering situation. And just be aware of that, because when you unlock that in yourself and say, oh, look at this, that's where I'm hooked, without ignoring your awareness, because your awareness might well say, hey, it's time to buy toilet paper. Apparently that's one of the items that is being sold out.
Not today.
Follow that as well. There is no right and wrong. There's only you, your beat, your song, and then the exploration with life. Mm-hmm. Allowing yourself to go into the extremes and being centered, being still, really discovering the variety of movements symbolically that are out there in this planet. That's what makes this planet so, so beautiful, that there is this variety of extremes.
Mm-hmm. Don't you think it goes back to staying in the moment? Because you can't live in the past, you can't live in the future, but if you're in the moment in a place of peace, then you don't get into fear mongering and all that. At least that's what's been working for me.
Cool.
Mm-hmm,
Thank you.
And always an and.
Yeah, of course.
There are some people who, and I'm not saying that that's the case for you, but just in case there's somebody who listens to this, being in the moment doesn't mean that you exclude the past and the future. It's very much the awareness that everything is really happening at once. You seed every next moment in the present, and you harvest the past. So
Mhm.
they're part of your moment. And some people say, oh, I don't want to know what's going to happen. Oh, I don't know. I don't want to remember what happened. It is the dance of those three elements
Mhm.
that make it rich and beautiful.
Yeah.
But when you drop your worry, when you drop your presence into the future and into the past, that's when it gets
Yeah.
imbalanced.
Mhm.
Yeah, I find that always very important, because I see people who think that being present means like, okay, I'm present. I'm not going to see anything else, right? And that gets smaller and smaller.
Yeah, presence means focused on
Mhm.
and then, yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. Grounded.
Mhm.
Yeah, grounded in your own beat. Like,
Yeah.
I love that image of the heartbeat in the feet.
Yeah, that's so we're talking about the beat and the feet. So I'm some of you know I'm studying human design, and there's this really beautiful channel called the channel of rhythm, a channel of the channel of rhythm. Anyways, a design of being in the flow. So this is really what we're talking about is that part of you, part of that channel is that fixed rhythm. And this is what we wanted to bring to you tonight as a way of being with all of this seeming chaos, is when you find your personal practice, develop a routine where you can check into yourself daily. Like that's part of the beat. And there's you being the rock in the stream. It doesn't mean you're unchangeable, but there's that core element to who we all are. That's your unique individual, your song, your energy signature, your footprint. And it's this time is where we can go and chop wood, carry water, develop our skills as magicians,
Mhm.
right? So go and do the work, and it's repetitive, it's ritual, and it can be fun. It doesn't have to be, but there is something about it. It's repetitive, it's over and over. And yet then at the other end of the channel there's the extremes, and it's about embracing the extreme while you're chopping wood, carrying water, doing your meditation practice or whatever it is, connecting to yourself, 3 times a day, or doing your prayers, whatever, rosary, whatever it is for you, that's that steady fixed rhythm. And then there's the extreme, that's extreme poverty, extreme fear. Somebody flushed a toilet. We're just muting someone who brought a lot of noise. So that was an extreme. And so then our system is like, we can go into that extreme of that loud noise, or that, that big fear that we have a resonance with. But then we go, if we keep on that beat and we know who we are and we stay strong in that, the stream and the rivers and the ocean can rush around us, and we're in the beat, in our feet, in our heart, in our presence, right? With all of this going on around. And evolution is really the big change. It's the great change, and there ain't nothing we can do about it. It's
We can
happening.
enjoy it, or we can be not enjoying it.
It's happening. We are creating it. We're not excluded from this change. And for all of us who say, oh, I'm afraid of change, well, we're actually creating it, and we're being invited to experience it.
And important in this moment to see that you're not creating it as a personality. You don't sit there and think, I wonder how much change I can create by having my health go bad, or losing lots of money, or splitting up in my relationship, or whatever it is. That's not how it works. When we say we co-create this change, we're talking from a being level, or some of you call it the soul. That is something the mind cannot reach. It's just important that you don't take yourself out of the equation in terms of, I have no part in this, and this is all happening to me, because that's the moment when you lose your beat in the feet. Right? So, and I also do believe that we are in the situation that we're in because we had to fire religion as a major space of inspiration and nourishment and tranquility, because it had become too fixed, right? And didn't do that movement anymore. It just became a board. And whenever something becomes so stiff, it doesn't play with the organism of life, it will be changed, right? And with that, we kind of threw the baby out with the water. That's right. Yeah, that way around. By forgetting that part in us that needs to be nurtured, that connecting with yourself and with the divine, right? That trust. And what I see with the New Age movement was what started way back when, that search of help me to understand myself led to a very self-centered approach of some people going to extreme of saying, hey, I'm going to create lots of wealth and riches for myself, and hey, maybe I donate something every once in a while, but it's all about me, 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 me. That's not who we are. We are a we. We're a collective. We're dancing together. And to bring that back, and it's beautiful to see that is coming back more and more and more into the awareness. And part of that needs to be that spiritual nurturance, divine, our relationship to the divine or God, whatever you want to call that. And the sacred, really, that's the word that I was looking for. And bringing back the sacred. So when you rest within the sacred, you can again move with change with way more ease and almost graceful. And ease doesn't mean that only good things will happen to you. Not at all. But you're present and you're not falling into suffering or despair or all that, which is really hard on our bodies.
And I was just thinking, like, the image of that, like that stiff board or something, if you become so rigid and a tsunami of change comes, you're gonna find a smackdown harder, right? So if you're in the beat, you're doing your chop wood, carry water, and you can flow at the same time. You're flowing in your essence. You're flowing with that, and then there's change, and then you're back in the beat. There's this movement that we're talking about that has to happen to be able to be with change. Change is fluid. There's a movement to all change. And change can come as a big smack if you don't succumb to some of that movement. And it's a surrender. I think we're using the word surrender, surrendering into life itself, life energy, and not resisting it. And it's a co-creation. Sometimes we same in a dance, sometimes we push, sometimes we pull. It's who creates what, we don't know anymore. We're just a part of this movement.
And when you have that I don't really want to call it grounding, because a lot of time grounding is used to, hey, you have to restrict yourself. Grounding as being in communion and connected with yourself and all that is. So when you have that, you can allow yourself to actually enjoy the diversity of this world. Whereas when you don't have it, you have to, for sheer survival of that which you have gotten right, you have to avoid change, because that's scary. Right? And what you do with that automatically is you eliminate magic. You cannot live a magical life like that, because you have to live from that thing between your ears. And that's not all that creative, and certainly not magical. Right? So coming back to that ritual routine, that really connecting with yourself. I'm sure a lot of you already are doing that. And I always invite people to make it very, very simple. Connect it with something that you're doing anyways, like brushing your teeth or getting out of bed in the morning, having your cup of coffee or tea in the morning, something that is easy for you to flow with. And just begin there by just taking a moment, take 3 deep breaths into your belly, and just relax into yourself and say, hi, I'm here. right? All of me, invite yourself into the day. And when you go to bed or brush your teeth in the evening, which I'm assuming you're doing, do the same thing. It can be as simple as that. And then something that I really love that I learned in Findhorn, which is an international community in Scotland where I lived. There is the Royal Air Force right next to the plot where the Findhorn Foundation is, and big airplanes fly regularly, very, very close over your head, and it can be loud and scary. But the invitation always was, take that moment when that loud noise is there that can be very intense and aggressive, take it to come back to yourself. So every time your phone pings with a text message, every time you see a news that you don't like or that resonates with fear, instead of going into that, go into that, take those breaths. Yeah. So that is a very simple way to start with the beat in your feet and tuning into that so that you can be with the change that is occurring in a different way and with awareness.
And having fun and lightening up and not taking everything so seriously. Find time to just play, let it rip, dance, move your body, listen to music. And in all of that, there's this relaxedness. However you can get into this relaxedness away from the seriousness, the heaviness, get into that relaxed, playful, open, whatever it is for you that brings you home to yourself. Get out the crayons and the paper, just something, and just
the music.
Yeah, and have it around. Don't some of us keep our art stuff in boxes somewhere. You're never going to go into the basement and get that. Bring it out.
I'm sure.
Bring it out and have it available.
Yeah, be messy. And with that foundation or platform, you are creating an opening for your capacity for change with ease and gracefully that invites a magical life. Because magic is very much present in the moment, connected with everything that is way beyond what you can fathom as an individual. And it is contributing, that energy is contributing to all of us all the time. And actually, interesting that comes through. I've seen a lot of people doing magic with, we have ways to change this, right? I know magic, like change. That's not the magic that we're talking about, because that often is very tempting to be power over and like ruling over that which you want to change. The magic that we're talking about is really being with the change, being with the possibilities, knowing when something can change, when something cannot change, and when something has to change. Yeah, there are three qualities, and you are so present with it, and you're present with what is actually required, that you just be it. And you don't necessarily have to be cognitively present with that. It can be just living in that flow automatically will create that space where you just be that and do that. And that is living with magic, or having your life unfold as if by magic. Yeah. And things that you can't possibly create with your head. And I'm sure you have heard many stories of that. We just yesterday had a beautiful story. We were buying a new truck for our trailer, and literally we were sitting at the desk doing numbers and all that, and we had one person after the other walk by the desk and provide us with exactly the information that we needed in terms of numbers and weights and how much power does the truck needs to have and blah 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 blah. It was funny to watch, to unfold that unfolding to watch. But we knew exactly the time when to go, not in our head. But we suddenly said, hey, it's time to go. So we went, and we're picking the truck up on Thursday. Magically. Yeah. Do you get that energy of as if by magic? Yeah, nodding heads.
And there's another word I wanted to throw in is listening. Is a space of waiting, which we're not really good at. We're big initiators. We got to make it happen. We got to push. We got to effort. We got to strive. We got to run our business. We got to write that book. We got to do that thing. And there's a whole flip over of being receptive, receiving the energies, waiting until you actually connect to the life force that's deep in your belly. And that your life force says yes to something, right? Not from the mind. Mind is always a good idea. But when you can just be relaxed and then you feel this energy rising up within you and you say yes to, that's when the change can be easier for you. It's like, okay, now, because I was telling you the same story. I think you were working with the cat. And I was talking about the fear that I had about spending the money and do we have it and how is it all going to work? And letting go of that, surrendering to that and listening. Then all of a sudden I got out of my fear and then everything just flowed. It just went do, everything that Sabina said. So big invitation for you to listen and be in that waiting, be in that feminine energy of receiving. It doesn't mean falling asleep. It's an active waiting state, waiting expectantly, like being a kid and waiting for Christmas presents or your birthday. It's expectant waiting and then not holding on to how it has to show up. Being willing to have what you thought you wanted change. What you thought you wanted was this, and then this shows up. Wow, so different. And it usually does. It usually shows up so different.
That's pretty much a guarantee. Yeah. So how are you guys with that? Is that inspiring? Do you have any questions, comments, ponderings, and wonderings?
A connection for you. I dreamt last night that somebody in a checked shirt, rather like Sabine is wearing, was driving a great big yellow truck pulling a gooseneck trailer.
Oh, hey.
So I hope your truck is
Thank you.
It's bright.
Anyway, they were ecstatic with this new truck.
Fantastic.
Yay. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Anyone else, any questions or ways that you're looking at change in your life, or it's been tough to deal with a certain change? Someone had written into us, said, yeah, being rejected by family, that's a change, and it feels like that's something that's been done to you, and it's not easy. Is there anything change that seems to be happening to you, or change that you're having a struggle with in this current time that you have a question about? You don't have to be specific. You can just give a broad brushstroke if you'd like.
They're all good.
Yeah, cool.
Perfect. So let's dive further into how do you utilize change in your life in a way that creates more instead of creates scary. Yeah. A lot of times, again, when people come for a coaching session, they come at a point where the requirement for change is so strong that they have no other choice. But it has become so scary that it seems to be impossible.
Good point. Yes.
Okay. So for you to be more easy with that change, really practice change. Practice being insecure. Practice taking risks. Because in the moment when the crisis hits, That's when you actually want to have your strength and your change muscle.
See my biceps?
It's your change muscle practiced and strong, right? Not in the moment. You don't want to have to work out while you have to run from the tiger.
Damn, I should have worked out before this tiger came.
Exactly. So how much fun can you have practicing that, changing things around? And when you do that, it is almost like you're opening little doors for that magical energy that is so joyful and playful and sometimes a little bit trickster-like, but you're opening the doors in an equal way, not like the change seeming to be like this big elephant and you're like this little tiny mouse.
That you're in control, like, right? I mean, the big thing that people don't like change is when they're out of control. So you can practice
being out of control. Yeah. So do you get that energy of really allowing yourself to fall? Like there's an artist who's called Laurie Anderson. And she has a beautiful song about falling into each step. Right? Every time you take a step, you fall. So that's a fun play too. When you walk, you just allow yourself to fall into your step, fall into the earth. So allow yourself to explore that energy so that when it is more required, you're actually at ease with it. And often when you do those little steps, the big journey doesn't seem to be so big anymore. You're suddenly there without even noticing. And then you think, my life is unfolding as if by magic. But it is you chopping your wood and carrying the water, being aware of everything that is, that you're not separate from all that is, and being that flexible, playful, yet clearly connected with yourself and all that is. You get that image, that sense in your body. It's more a body sense than a mind sense. The mind doesn't really get this.
Yeah. And just, I mean, what we were playing with is like sliding on the ice when it's really slippery out. Just we're walking the dogs and just letting our legs slide more, or like we've gone down so many icy hills. It's ridiculous with carrying dogs, and it freaks me out because I want to have my ground, but it's all like every day we're like, what can we do that scares us a little or a lot? Like where can we go to that edge? Where can we be with that? Walk backwards, just do something, just change it up somehow.
And if you're running a business, when was the last time that you took a risk? If you're in a relationship, when was the last time you actually took a risk with that relationship? Just dare yourself a little bit to open that energy, right? Dare yourself to be in that unknown, in the liminal, in the magical. Because if you keep the door shut, it's going to be hard pressed to sneak through those cracks. But if you start opening the door, the light will come in and lift you further than you dreamed is possible. It's beautiful. Yes. Cool.
Can I say something?
Totally.
Yes.
I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, oh, just one second. I need to plug in because I'm losing my battery. Just hold on.
Yeah.
I find I've entered a new stage now, new life stage in my 50s, and I used to be so much more open to change and spontaneity, and I feel as I get older and after having sustained losses that I am clinging more to the familiar and to the comfortable, even though I know it's to my own detriment and it's preventing me from growing. But I used to be much more bold. And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm thinking there's a tendency as we get older to be more, to cling to what's safe and known as opposed to going into the unknown. Mm-hmm. And I wondered if you could speak to that and offer some strategies to counter that.
Absolutely.
I mean, I just want to address the body. I feel that for myself sometimes too, I was very bold with my body doing daredevilish things. And now, okay, I've got a pain or I've got this knee injury that I can't just I can't just be crazy about it. I have to be aware, like so much more aware of my body than when I was in younger ages, because I could rebound a lot quicker. And now it takes a while, and I remember that my body remembers this. So I just wanted to put that out there. And it's when we talked about that beat in your feet, like, yeah, knowing the limitations. And so within the limitations, within the fears and the losses and the pains, what else, like, how can I break out of that into my creativity? And what we were just talking about, like, what is the thing where you can just challenge yourself to the edge?
Mm-hmm. And I find getting up there as well into the 50s, I find that
She's passed.
yes, well past. I find it fascinating how those patterns are literally ingrained in my body. The body memory is so stores those memories of, okay, this is what's happening here and here and here. And when I forget to challenge myself to take those little risks, that's when that big starts to unfold rather dynamically in my life. So, Robin, when you find yourself in that, oh, I'm not taking the risks anymore that I used to, I wonder if that also is a shift in risks, the kind of risks that you're taking, right? Because let me just, when we're young, we need to take risks in a very, very different way than we need to take when we're getting more mature, right? So your risk taking might look very different and you might not recognize it.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. Oh my goodness.
Does that make sense?
I'm going to ponder that.
Yeah.
It's, well, I mean, we've talked about that quite a bit. It's you take, there's other risks. There's the risk to, like I was talking about, waiting, the risk to be so different. Like, what if you sat in meditation for a lot? That's different than going out and pushing and striving and things. So you're taking a risk by being different than the rest of the world, right? That's being your difference is a big risk. And that can be on the like mental, emotional, different planes of life.
Mm-hmm. It is really, I'm very aware that it is important to be aware of the kind of change that you are able to create is very different than when you were 30. Like Juna's daughter, she's an amazing woman, and she's running her own business in the way that she is, and she's like on her feet and changes things around, and like very inspiring. And if we would try to compare ourselves to her way of changing and doing things, it just doesn't work. And I see myself back then when I was 30, I thought, oh yeah, I been there, done that. And then there's a part of me that thinks, why don't I do that anymore? Because I'm not there anymore. I'm not 30. And that's not a bad thing. It's like, yeah, I need to now calm down and be tame. Not at all. It's actually opposite, right? We, with the years, I'm able to take risks on levels that weren't available to me when I was that age. Particularly in the work that I'm doing with myself, like really letting go of the shadow sides, and in relationship with other people, being willing to take totally different risks because I'm actually differently aware of what's going on, that I can address something that I couldn't back then because I simply wasn't aware and it wasn't important back then. Does that shine a clearer light on that?
It does. You gave me something to think about.
Good. Happy pondering.
Thank you. That's what, part of what change is.
Yeah, totally. And that's actually something that has come into our lives very much, the art of contemplation. It's not necessarily meditation, but contemplation, really taking something in and tasting all the different tastes of it, and exploring it without drowning in it, right? That is something that I didn't have when I was 30 to the extent that I have available now. And with that, change occurs naturally because I'm actually intimate with the different energies and the different qualities that are present. Yeah. So allow yourself over a cup of your favorite drink to contemplate, to ponder, to play with it, and allow, as Robin said, allow the change to unfold. Beautiful.
And that's another key piece, is just allow change to unfold. We think we have to do something about what's happening out there or inside. What if we were witnessing and observing, and we learn from quantum science that, the act of observing and witnessing and being present actually changes things.
Mm-hmm. And that's, be aware. I want you to play with this, with the three kinds of energies, right? What can change, what could change, and what has to change.
What can change, what could change, and what has to change.
Exactly.
Can you give examples of each?
Something that can change is, you could move from this room to the next. We can change the way that we're spending money. We can change, or I can change my routine in my day, right? That's something that I can do, but don't necessarily have to do. But if I choose to live a magical life, what has to change is me attaching to everything that that I've decided is right in my life. Right? That has to change if I choose to live a magical life. Mm-hmm. And I don't have at the moment something that has to change.
The can change, the could change, and the has to
change. Yeah. So you get the energy of the has to change. This has to, if you choose X, Y, Z, this has to change, right? There is no choice. Like if we choose to be as a human species on this planet, we have to change with evolution. There's no if or what or but, because otherwise we won't be part of it anymore. Okay? And so you get the difference between can and
could. What's the could? So you can change it, or you could change it, or is it the same thing? You can change, you could change.
The could is more like it's further away. It's almost like
it doesn't. It's not really relevant.
That the other one was the could not change.
Oh, you
that makes that.
You can change.
What can change?
You cannot change. Okay.
And what you could. No,
you have to change.
Have to change that way around.
What's the could not change?
So what could not change for me at the moment is that I need to breathe. Right? Very basic. Mm-hmm. And there are some things that you cannot change because it's also part of the bigger picture. Would I like a different government? Yes. But in this moment, it could not change. But I can contribute in small steps to that. But the bigger picture in this moment cannot change. Do you get that? Yeah. There are just some things that you cannot change. And instead of like going against the wall and trying to build a door, it is important to be aware of those three energies. What you can, cannot, and
what has to.
What has to.
And it doesn't mean that if it cannot, it's not. It doesn't always have. It's not written in stone. Yeah. It's just cannot right now. Like what Marlene was saying, in the present, it's just this is not changeable in this moment. Mm-hmm. From what I know right now.
Yeah. You could also say it from a rebel point of view, which I used to say, that's why I mix those examples a little up, is which rules do you have to obey? Which rules can you bend? And which rules can you break? And to be present with all three energies all the time. And that will give you access to change. Again, that opens the door to magic. Because when you're present, you will see that. And you will wake up when you attach to something so hard that it eliminates magic in your life. it has to change if you choose to live a magical life, of course.
And if you're trying to understand this with your mind, she's doing something to you right now. There's something going on. And just really surrender to that. There's just like, this is the magic. This is the energy of change. And letting go of the mind, trying to figure it out, it will never figure this all out or remember everything. And it's like the being of whatever this transmission is right now.
I'm just wondering if the buying the truck is a has to change.
That was a has to change, yes.
Yes. Thank you. Great.
Mm-hmm. And again, the has to change is also related to what we choose, because we love being on the land and traveling as gypsies of consciousness. And with the car that we're having right now, it wouldn't have happened.
It can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
We'd give it a good try, but it's not there anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyone else with any questions or want to riff on something that someone else talked about? How can we help you get that energy of change?
The magical change and being a contribution to the planet by being that, making change less scary, so not so many people have to freak out when there is change occurring, and actually being able to call what's a lie and what's not, because that comes with that as well.
Can you say more about that?
Or just seeing how many lies there are. It's so fascinating to me, depending on what kind of news you're reading. Like I always read different sources of news, from German news, Canadian news, US news, Fox News, CNN, Reuters, whatever, and seeing the different perspectives. Like, nobody has the truth. Everybody tells their perspective, and then there are just bold manipulations and big time propaganda in many, many ways. And when you're aware of your beat and you're clear with you can read those news in a totally different way. And they're not scary. They're just like, wow, interesting what they're trying to pull off. And that gives you an awareness that goes beyond the actual fact that they're trying to sell you. You see where they're going energetically, and then you can just be accordingly and be aware. What could you change? What can you not change? And what is not changeable?
What has to change?
Well, yeah. I'm staying with my rebel images. Which rules can you break? Which ones
can you bend?
And which ones can you
obey?
Or do you have to obey?
Yeah.
Right.
I just had a thought. Man. Oh, it's gone.
Yeah. Cool. So I think this was.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a feeling that change, fairly significant change, is just sort of looming in the background. I have no idea I don't think I have any idea what the nature of the change is. And I would like to get it out of the loom period and to say, let's present me with it, and so I can choose or not choose. And if anybody has any suggestions on how to move it forward, I would love to hear.
I wish that would be a choice right now. But my sense is that we're in that, and that's part of our inspiration for these fireside chats. The time of the liminal is not quite yet done. It's so close. I mean, an astrologer might be able to peek into the stars. She's a good astrologer. That's why I'm saying that. And I think the way that we can choose is really being present in the moment and not buying into our own belief systems, and really being aware, because every day almost change is unfolding and new energies are available to us, and it's easy to miss those drips of change and magic and new possibilities when we're looking for the big picture. So be present with that. What is available to you today that wasn't available to you yesterday? That's a question you can ask, because then you will grow into that big change and it won't blow you apart in the same way. Does that make sense, Malia?
I'm feeling as though I'm ready to welcome the change. I'm not scared of being blown apart because I've done a lot of changing in the past and have done it quite well. I just wish it would get on.
But what if it is dripping into your reality every day? You expect this big thing, and it's actually the graceful time is that it's dripping, or it's not dripping anymore, it's flowing quite a bit. But we're expecting the big bang again, and it's not going to come in the same way right away.
Mm-hmm.
This is the period of grace where we can actually open up for it and just play with it and train our change and our divine muscle.
That's the chop wood, carry water, and it's kind of go almost back to the mundane rituals of building the skills as a magician. Just
mundane, to keep, not quite, but
just that repetitive. How can I connect to myself? And we talk about having 3 communions a day with yourself, like breakfast, lunch, dinner, or whatever. The phone rings or this happens. How can I connect to myself in that moment?
I think that is the most important thing that we can do right now. And bringing back the sacred in your own way. That I think that is a huge contribution. I saw see that, and it's interesting. I just watched a very recent video from Caroline Myss where she talks about the loss of the sacred and like this change. Amazing video. I might post that in the Synergy and Motion forum on Facebook. Share that with you guys because it's very inspirational and very funny.
And I mean, we use the word sacred, and I know a lot of people have get their hackles up when we talk spiritual language, but another word is beauty. Beauty for me brings me into that space of being me, and my eyes love to look at beauty all around me. So my environment is really important. Like how if it has order, it has beauty, it has color, that stimulates this this presence in me where I can really connect to my song.
Here's another invitation. Find the beauty, wonder, and awe in your daily life. That's the big change. That's how you can basically, you're putting your hand up to the universe. Okay, sign me up for the big bang that then might be just a joyful ride. Cool. Anybody else? I love seeing your faces. A couple of people we haven't seen before or for a while.
Do you experience magic every day?
Pretty much, yeah.
And I define it as wonder and awe and beauty. Yeah.
If I don't have that energy present with me, I get very grumpy. I turn into a little stink beaver. And then that's for me a sign, okay, I need to come back to myself. And then I just step out into the garden and connect with nature and her beings. And if I'm not in a situation where I can go physically into nature, I just actually connect with the molecules in the furniture around me, often with I have a thing with walls. The molecules in walls, they can be very fun and full of stories and energy. So that's what I do when I get into that, forgetting the magic and the beauty. But that's my little weird way of doing it.
Yeah, and contemplate on that as how could you do that in your world? Is bring back the magic, the awe, the beauty, the wonder. What would that be for you?
And I do connect with awe and wonder and beauty, I think, on a daily basis. But I think of magic as something even more transcendent and maybe like another dimension. I think of magic as something even more elusive that I can't necessarily tap into on a daily basis. But certainly beauty and nature.
Yeah, and see, that's exactly a lie that we have been told that is not true. Magic is very present. Magic is that wonder and awe and the ability to change anything and that to flow with life.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's magic for me. I don't mean magic, okay, here, I'm holding these two fingers up and then the sparks fly between those two fingers, right?
Yeah.
Mind you, I would love that, but I
Party
think it
tricks.
would, yeah, in my training, actually, one of my teachers, he was able to levitate objects. And he stopped doing that in the moment when he realized that it was more like a show thing and people looked for proof, because that was missing the point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? From that moment, he did not do that anymore. And I find if I would do this, I would probably try to convince people that magic is real. See, I can do this. And finding the magic in that wonder and awe and that, being moved by it and moving with it. That's something that we have forgotten that is there every day. And from that grows the bigger magic. That then goes, wow, how did that happen? I don't know. Does that make sense?
I'm going to think about that tomorrow when I'm looking at the squirrels in my backyard and the birds in the trees. But I do every day. I stop and I'm very mindful of nature's beauty and all the creatures we share this planet with, and the creatures I share my little corner of the world with.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I spoke earlier of some of the limitations that come with aging, but one of the lovely things that comes with aging is being more mindful of those moments and appreciating them and taking them in.
Mm-hmm. So what you can do in that moment, actually, allow yourself to be just that little bit more intimate with it. Right? Mm-hmm. So we have lots of squirrels in the backyard as well. And then suddenly it starts that you start moving with them. You be in communion. And there's like sometimes they even move with you. Right? There's when you allow yourself to lower your barriers even more to that beauty, wonder, and awe, and allow yourself to be more intimate with what is, there's a whole other game opening up that we could call magic. It's fun. I saw the video the other day where somebody was dancing with a whole flock of birds. It was beautiful. And that person, you could see they were just intimate with that energy. Mm-hmm. And it begins in your everyday, small, step-by-step life. Chop wood, carry water. And if you're bored with that, then you chop water and carry wood.
Then it's real magic.
If I can get the squirrels to chop the wood or carry the water, then that would be really magical.
There you go. Okay, challenge is on.
You might be surprised what's possible.
Chop the water to go ice fishing.
Exactly. There are many ways.
You girls are just inspiring. Every time I hear you talk, you're inspiring. But one thing that I can say for me is that, like, I'm right there. That cloud of change is like it's palpable. It's been there for a while, and I'm like, bring it on. So for me, the magic is when I can get my mind to shut up. Like when I can get out of that and just do exactly what you're saying and enjoy, the little nuances and beauty and maybe even, oh my gosh, really take one day and recognize that the change is actually dripping in, right? So for me, that's the magic. The magic isn't something that's this. Mm-hmm. It's not that to me at all. It's the awareness that has come to me with age, I guess. I'm going to say it's with age because I'm like, bring on the change and I'm aware of it. And that is a totally different place than where I was 20, 30 years ago, as we were talking about where our little adult girls are right now. So thank you very much for doing what you do.
With great pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.
Both of us can relate to that. The big change is in the air. It is totally present. And that's why we do what we do, for this to actually unfold with grace.
Right.
And with ease and not be a smackdown. I kind of like this incarnation form shape of a human body. It's kind of handy. It's fun. You can have a lot of fun with that. So I'd rather have this shape and form evolve with the evolution. And if not, hey, oops.
That's right. And like a lot of my clients and a lot of my friends even, the fear is all enveloping for them. I think they have a sense of the, the change that's right there, but the fear and the fact that they're so solid in the rut of life that they've been in for so long, they couldn't see anything outside of that. And the fear sets in, and like for a lot of people right now, they're virtually in a bit of a panic mode.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going back to grateful for the fact that I've got that little bit of magic to be able to be aware and to recognize. And lots of times you want to be able to help people, but you can only do what people want. So it's an interesting time to be an observer, and to be a participant. Yeah,
and also know that help is by you not, like, every time somebody who believes they are bored, stiff, like that fear, and they start going even a little bit,
softening in your presence,
it has enormous ripple effects, because that's a sound that the universe is playing. So there's this big sound of change, and you go, you're going to resonate with that reaches more people than we can fathom.
And that's the magic we're talking about too. It is so subtle, and we're always looking for the rabbit out of the hat, the big bang, and it's the drip, it's these subtle pieces. And you are the magic, we are the magic, and it's really being fully alive as who we are. That we are like a catalyst of change. We walk in a room, or our clients come and they just feel better being in our presence. They have a sense of hope, right? It's just who we're being. So how can we be that more? How can we let that unfold, and then deal with our own fears and our own shadows, where we go into that holding and lockdown mode? When I free that in myself, my daughter changes. When I free it in myself, Sabina changes, our animals change, everything changes.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, girl. I got to keep it quiet because the dog's running around like a fool.
That will stimulate ours.
She's
not
Great.
Right there.
Thank
you.
Cool.
And thank you for daring to be on this journey and be part of this dance of the heartbeat in your feet, the beat in your feet of you, into all the different diverse expressions of life. It is a huge contribution to us to be playing with all of you. It is exciting times. There was no generation before us that could experience evolution live, and we can. That is a humongous gift, luxury, blessing, whatever you want to call it.
And the speed with which things change.
Yeah.
I'd also like to say something too. This is Sharon. I usually don't talk a lot. I listen a lot. Sometimes I fall asleep when you guys, because you just send me off somewhere else. But it is so, and that tells me that that's something I really need to go back and listen to, because it puts me out. So, but I really am inspired as well, and just to be present and to remind myself that there is magic, and then to allow things to unfold. I did go to a financial advisor today, and to just kind of see what's possible. I'm house hunting again, and I've retired, and now I have some money put away, and it's like, what do I do with this? Would this be a smart move, or this not be a smart move? And I really wasn't going for answers, because that needs to come from me and my money. And it really kind of woke me up too. I'm retired and I'm looking for a house, and they suggested that it might be wiser for me. I wanted to pay cash for it, and they said, well, it might be wiser to get a mortgage. And that was just not in my, thinking patterns at all, because that's the last thing I really want.
And that's a beautiful example, exactly where you never had that in your reality, right? It's like, this is how it is. And suddenly it seems soft, beautiful, right? And it looks like it's the mundane financing a house, but it is that you softening in up and having a different possibility. That's the beginning of a magical life.
Right, exactly. And then, and I'm also taking a financial course on Mind Valley, and just before this call, one of the exercises was to sit and, take some money out of your wallet or your credit card, and take it out of your wallet and look at it and just talk to it and see what it had to say to you. And it had a similar thing. This is like a 21-day thing. And so it was a similar thing yesterday. And I was when I did that yesterday, my money told me that that they're available, that it's available to me, and that yes, I may have not used it to my advantage, because I've been sitting on this money for the house for a long time now, and I could have been using that to make more money, and instead, whatever, invest in it and make more money. And yet there was that fear that I didn't want to lose it. So at any rate,
great example.
Exactly. And so now it's like, 10 years ago when I sold my mother's house, and now I could have bought my house, and I've sat on this money for 10 years, which it could have made me a lot of money, but it also could have tanked out. I could have done a lot of things. Fear is one thing that kind of
could have, would have, we don't know. Right?
Yeah. So, and now
right now, that's the cool thing.
Exactly. So now I'm kind of really looking at what do I want? What do I need? And so talking to the money, and it just kind of said, I'm here and use me. And then so I started kind of talking to it and don't ignore me, because yes, I don't know anything about investing, and I have some money invested, but I've been ignoring it. I haven't been talking to the money, asking it, do you want to stay here? Do you want to move? Do you want to be in a lower risk thing? Do you want to be in a higher, I haven't talked to the money at all. And so the money really literally told me to sit here and really to talk to it. And I kind of got this hit that not only, because usually when I go buy something, I ask, okay, so if I buy this, will it make me money? And I also, I ask questions like, if I do this, or if I buy this, will that create the future I want, or will that decay the future I want? So those are the kind of questions I ask. But but what struck me today in this conversation with my own money was, I should ask the money itself.
That's magic.
And that's you
the want to be spent.
You're not the source. That's important. You're part of, and money is part of.
Yeah. Right. And so ask the money itself, is this how you'd like to be spent? Is this, and just kind of it just opened up a whole different perspective here. So, and all the stuff you said tonight is just kind of added right to that, right in the same. Yeah. So this is really good. I really appreciate you. Even though I don't speak up a lot, I really appreciate your having these fire chats. And yeah, you are definitely an inspiration. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Beautiful to hear.
Cool. Yay.
All
cool.
Right. Well,
we're beyond the top of the hour, and we haven't turned into pumpkins. No. But if you enjoyed this and you're listening to this at a later point, and you would like to join us for future Fireside Chats, you can join us live by signing up on our website, synergyinmotion.info, or you can also sign up for our podcasts on your favorite streaming service, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and SoundCloud. We are present there, and you can just sign up and get the latest, newest, hottest Fireside Chats, which are very hot at the moment. Cool.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you next time. We meet usually the 3rd of the month. Okay, so just tuck that away. So we have different days for people who work certain schedules. So we hope that we can catch you at some point. So it's the 3rd of the month. So April 3 will be the next one.
Perfect.
Okay, cool. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.